Hi and welcome back. Thank you for watching this video on my channel. Today I received a package in the mail. I've been waiting for it for about 3 weeks, but it finally arrived. You can tell by the postage that it came from somewhere in Eastern Europe. This is actually came all the way from Greece, and I ordered. This became available about 3 weeks ago. This is basically kind of like a converter for the Atari 5200. So what it will do is it'll convert a signal from the control port and convert the controller port to work with the Genesis, with a Sega Genesis controller or an Atari controller, Atari 2600 controller. So basically, I got this because I did not like the Atari 5200 controller. I don't really have to go in depth about why it's not a really good controller. Most of the times they basically malfunction because of the way they were made. So I'm looking forward to using this converter in order to get it to work. So I'll go ahead and open the package. Okay. There we go. It's stuck to the... See what we got. Okay. All right, so it's very small. And the board is completely exposed. I'm trying to see if maybe I can figure out a way to mount this where it's got more protection, because I'm not sure if having this board exposed is the best idea. I mean, it's basically something that looks like you should go inside of a PC, but it's going to be out. So just a brief explanation. So this port is identical to what the port of an Atari 5200 is. So you put an Atari 5200 controller here, that's just for the keypad. This goes inside or on the port of the Atari 5200, and here is where you would get your Sega Genesis controller. So if I can demonstrate, I got my Genesis controller and I got my Genesis port. So this would go right in there. Okay, and that would be for the Genesis. And then I'll get my Atari 5200 controller. All right, so this is the Atari 5200. And the Atari 5200, the port would go into the controller. All right, so right off the bat, you're probably going to have some trouble with the controller, because I've tried many different ways to get the controller in, and unless I remove these little tabs here, I don't think the controller is going to go in. So for now, I'm not going to try to mess with this, and I'm going to go ahead and just try to demo it without the keypad. But in theory, this should go right into here, and we should be able to use the keypad with the controller. So probably an adjustment that to make maybe some tabs here so that the controller can go right in, because I'm having trouble connecting the controller in smoothly. All right, so right now I have my Panasonic 32-inch CRT hooked up to my Atari 5200. This Atari already has had a composite mod made, so I can play it straight into the AV port. And I have just the Genesis controller hooked up. And I have this game, Galaxian, that I'm going to try out and see how well it works just playing it with the Genesis. So let's go ahead and try this on. Hopefully it works on the first try. Okay, I've already put that in. Okay, looks like it's turned on. Okay, see if I can get this started without the keypad. All right, so there's the game. I'm gonna go ahead and press the start button. And I will press start. For some reason, it keeps on going to the left, to the right. Playing one-handed here. Okay, for some reason, it's just veering to the left. Okay, now that's more like it. Maybe it might be my Genesis controller. Okay. So, as far as the Genesis controller is concerned, it looks like it's working fine. Okay, yeah, it looks like it's working fine. All right. Does the start button have any function at all? And it does not. Does not do anything. So what I see here that it works with the with the B trigger button. All right, so I'll go ahead and start a game here. Okay. So the controller works fine. Wow, this is much better than just having it with the analog stick. My hand doesn't actually feel tired after playing for a couple of minutes. Let's go ahead and try another game. So now we're gonna go ahead and try Miss Pac-Man, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that in. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and continue using the remote. Okay, that's weird. So again, it's doing that thing where every time I go yeah, now it's gone, but earlier it was having like a glitch or something. Well, now see, now it's malfunctioning again because it wants to go up and down. So it's a little glitchy here. Okay, so now it's wanting to go down by itself. I'm gonna go ahead and try a different remote. Maybe it's my remote that's malfunctioning. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that. All right, so I'm trying a different controller. This is still the 3-button Genesis controller that I'm trying out. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on and see if it still does that thing where the directional or the direction doesn't quite work well. So let me try that out. Okay. So now I got the 6-button Genesis, so I'm gonna give that a try. Hopefully the involuntary movement of the joypad is stopped. Maybe because I mean this is the third controller I'm going to try, but I'm going to try the 6-button Genesis controller. Okay, so it's still doing it. So I'm not sure if this is happening because of the lack of keypad. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to do a small modification on the plug. Hopefully we can get it to work. And maybe it'll stop doing the... So see, now it's involuntary going down, so not sure why that is. Yeah. So let's go ahead and see if I can do that modification on the plug. So what I suspect is that the problem that we're having is basically that we need this Atari controller to be plugged in to the port, and maybe that'll stop the joypad from going the direction when it's not pressed. So what I've done is I got the plug, and as you can see, the problem is these little tabs here on the 5200 plug. These are getting in the way of this fully connecting. So what I've done is I marked with some Sharpie the gap that I'm going to need to make on both sides, because it also has these little tabs on the other side. I'm going to have to figure out a way to cut out that space, or those slots, so that way the Atari joystick can fit together. Then we have this connected, and that way hopefully that'll prevent the joypad from going haywire the way it's been going. That's basically the only solution that I can think of right now for as far as troubleshooting this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out right now. Okay, so basically what we're at is I have my rotary tool right here, and I got this little bit. It's kind of like a grinding bit, and what I'll do is I'll very carefully cut through the metal that's right here. See if I can get you can get a closer look at that. I'm going to cut through the metal that I marked on both sides. That way I can make a big enough of a gap that we can get some contact with these pins on the Atari 5200 joystick. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, and then we'll see how that came out. So as you can see, I was able to grind out that little gap right there on the very top. I probably will need to sand it down just a little bit, because there is a little bit of shaved metal right there, but I could probably get that off very carefully with a smaller bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and finish off the operation and go ahead and grind out these two areas right here that I've marked. So I'm going to go ahead and continue doing that. All right, so I was able to shave off those three little slots. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get rid of the shavings that are left inside the plug. I don't know if you can see that up close. See if I can get it to focus. Okay, so those little slots, I need to clean out the inside. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. I'm gonna just use a smaller bit to kind of take all those shavings out. Okay, so as you can see, when I'm gonna be in there, all the little pins are out, so I have to be very careful because I don't want to cut any of those pins inside. I just want to get in inside the plug so I can shave off that metal that's needs to come off. So I'm gonna be very careful. I got an extra thin bit that I want to try out, see if I can get in there cleanly. If not, I'll probably use a much thinner bit. See. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to get enough clearance there to shave that off, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so that is ready to go. I've cleaned out all the extra metal shavings that are inside. So let's go ahead and try our 5200 plug. Okay, so all right, so now we have a connection. Okay, the plug is not fully in, but I don't want to cut too deep because then I'd be cutting into the plastic. I think as long as it makes a good connection there, we should be fine. In case that I'm not getting a good connection, I'll go ahead and just cut a little bit more and trim it down just a little bit more. But I think for our purposes, this should work out fine. We're gonna go ahead and try now the plug again, and hopefully having this plugged in will prevent the Atari from having its directional pad go haywire. So let's go ahead and try that out now. Okay, so we have everything all set up. As you can see, we got the 5200 controller plugged into the converter plug, and then we have our Genesis controller plugged in. So we'll go ahead and try that out now. Hopefully we get different results. Okay, so we're still having that problem. Yeah, see, it's still going to the right. So I don't know. I'll go ahead and test the Atari controller and see if it'll pause the game. Okay, so that works because it's pausing the game. Okay, so definitely the gamepad works because you can select the two players by pressing the start button. You can change the level by pressing, the number button. You can change the level of players, number of players. The start button, you can press different levels. Okay, so we have a working gamepad here. Okay, I'll go ahead and press start from here. Oh, that works. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's still veering to the right. That's unfortunate. I mean, you can still control it somewhat, but it won't self-center back to where it should be. See, right there, it shouldn't be moving at all because I'm not pressing right. So, I don't know. This might be a case for this particular game. Let's go ahead and try other games and see if there's something different. So, see, it's inconsistent. See, I never moved it that way. Alright, so for quicks it kind of worked. I think at the beginning. Okay, now see, I'm not moving anything. So now I think it's working again. Alright, so Quicks works okay, but not very consistently. Let's try a different game. So I'll go ahead and try just regular old Pac-Man. So it looks like with Pac-Man it works okay. No problems there. So it's funny that with Pac-Man it works perfectly fine. Alright, so no problems with Pac-Man. Which is funny because Miss Pac-Man completely did not work at all. But this one is working just fine. I'm now going to go ahead and try Dig Dug. Okay, no problems with Dig Dug. No problems with Dig Dug. So Dig Dug works good. Okay, we'll try Countermeasure. Okay, so it's on involuntarily veering right now. Okay, this one just having a difficult time controlling the tank. Yeah, I would not try this on this one. Try an Atari controller and see if we get a better control of that. All right, so when I went ahead and got my Atari 2600 controller joystick out, and we'll go ahead and try Miss Pac-Man again and see if that allows me to control the joystick. Okay, so it's still veering to the right, even though I have the Atari joystick. See, it's... I mean, it works, but like I said, you know, it kind of has control of itself going to the right, so yeah. Let's try a 7800 controller to see if that's any different. All right, so I got the 7800 controller. Okay, so it still does the same thing. So it's definitely not the controller's fault. I mean, it's still... And with this one, it's even harder to get it to go up. You have to really press it. Yeah, it's... I think even the 7800, I mean the 2600 controller made it easier to sort of control. I've been playing Galaxian for about half an hour now. And apparently that veering to the right is gone. I don't know if I can demonstrate, but I'll give it a try. See, so now the veering is gone, and I've been playing it for a while, so I don't know if it's my 5200, but definitely not a problem anymore. Same thing happened with Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man. I started playing it after maybe about 15 minutes and it stopped doing that veering. So I'm not sure if it's my 5200 that's responsible for it veering off, but I just thought I'd share that. Okay, so here are my final thoughts. We had some compatibility issues with certain games, but I noticed that with Miss Pac-Man and with Galaxian, the longer that I played with the controller, the better it got at not veering to the right. So what I'm thinking is maybe it might be my 5200 that is malfunctioning. Nonetheless, after a couple of minutes, maybe about 15 minutes of playing, the problem basically went away. So it could be my system that's the problem. But nonetheless, I would probably highly recommend that you check this out. I think it's a good product. I don't know if it was just my 5200 that had issues with it, but once you get it going, I mean, it totally changes the game for you. I definitely I'm probably going to play some more 5200 more often because that controller won't be so brutal now that I can use my Genesis controller to play these games. But this is definitely going to be very handy for that, and I look forward to continuing to play 5200 because it was a system that I got recently, and I just very interested and very intrigued about the history of that console. So for most people, they've probably waited most of their life just to get a chance to play the 5200 without the crappy controller or the controller that inconsistently works. So it's still kind of nice to have this, and it's definitely, for me, it was definitely worth getting. Some feedback though that I would have as far as purchasing this modification was not that difficult to do for me because I have the tool, but it would be very difficult with someone that didn't have a rotary tool to be able to fix this because you could mess up the connectors. Fortunately for me, that was not a problem. As you can see, all the connectors are fine. I didn't screw that up, but it did take some precision to try to grind out those areas to make that 5200 plug work. Let me see if I can show that again. So with that modification, I was able to go in perfectly fine. So just some advice. What I would do is I would go ahead and I would definitely have a way. I would probably snip these off before I send them out, just in case someone is not able to cut that out for themselves. Because I was not able to get that plug in without cutting those parts from the aluminum. But now it makes a perfectly good connection. I mean, when I tried it out on the game, these buttons worked, so there's no problems there. But the only thing I would advise is to, possibly have whoever's manufacturing them, or if he's doing it himself, grind this out, because I don't know if a newbie who's never touched a rotary tool in their life would be able to do the modification that I made to make this work. This is a great device to have. Definitely plays better with that Genesis controller, because that other controller is just not very, this controller is just not very good. So, and also if they could just get some kind of case for it, I'm probably going to end up just figuring out a way to put an enclosure in here, because I don't want this to short because of the connections being all exposed. But yeah, it would be nice if there was some kind of enclosure for it. I do know that it sells out of these every so often, because I had to wait for this to become available again to order one. And they do come from Greece, so it will take a while for them to get to the States. Mine took about 3 weeks. Anyhow, thank you for watching my video today, and I hope this was helpful in determining whether or not you want to purchase these. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening.